Tonight, I am queen of a quorum of queens. Let's meet one's loyal subjects. Speaking the Queen's English, Colin Lane.
Thank you.
Taking the Queen's shilling, David Mitchell. Wearing the Queen's uniform, Sarah Millican. And the groom of the stool, Alan Davies. Right, let's hear their queenly quartet. Sarah goes.
Play with the Queen of Hearts.
Nice. Colin goes.
You are the dancing queen.
Oh, I love a bit of Scandi music. And David goes.
And the homecoming queen.
And Alan goes.
And what do you do?
Right, what can you tell me about the royal we?
It doesn't smell.
And we're off and running.
And edging his first delivery slip. Richie Benno.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Was that an Australian accent?
Oh, come on! I've been working on that since you were last here.
Really?
They don't open their teeth up.
They? Yes.
They. I've busted my crown,
Oh, no.
you see?
I'll go over to this side. What can you tell me
Yes.
about the royal we?
There was something weird about George III's wee. I think maybe it was purple, and then they thought he had
Yes.
porphyria,
Yes.
and then now they think he didn't have porphyria, but they were definitely saying there's something up with this guy's wee.
Yeah.
Also, he's gone mad.
Yes. That is entirely correct, but I'm heading in a different direction. Why might a royal person say we?
First person plural.
It is the majestic plural. It's known as nosism from the Latin nose for we. It's the idea that the royal person, instead of referring to themselves as I, in fact, says we.
Implying there's more than one of them.
Yes, well, we can trace it back to Henry II, and it used to mean God and I. That's what it really comes from. We've got Henry II there and his successor, Richard I, and it's Richard I that introduced the motto, Dieu est mon droit, God and my right, and that remains the royal motto ever since.
Got your crown, Dave. Got your crown.
I like to think this is like a working crown. This isn't like a Parliament opening coronation crown. This is a crown...
Daily.
Yeah, you can wear it all the time. You can go into
dishes.
battle.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a paper and some fags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going to the garage at 3 a.m. for
Yeah.
munchies.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, the Queen doesn't actually use the pronoun one as much as you would think. They analysed all her speeches since 1952, and she uses I 6 times more often than she says one. It's a parody, really, of how she speaks, because it isn't.
Unless she got bored of it.
Yeah,
Must
one's
be
not
boring
doing that
being
anymore.
queen, so just mix it up a bit.
It must be quite dull, do you not think? Constantly having to open and close things.
I don't think, to be fair, you mean opening as in launching?
Yeah.
And, I don't think she closes many things. You know, when BHS went under, I didn't think... You know...
But when you're in charge, the whole approach to pronouns can be quite complicated. So the very first Qin emperor, so the guy who unified China, is a guy called Shi Huangdi, and he announced when he became emperor that the character Chen, which was the normal singular pronoun, so I, was for his imperial use only. And it meant everybody else had to come up with other ways of referring
I am
to
Chen.
themselves. Yeah,
I am Chen.
I am Chen. Yeah. People used to refer to themselves often as you, meaning this foolish one, or not refer to yourself at all. In terms of things that you might refer to yourself if you're in charge, Kim Jong-il, he had more than 1,200 titles with which he used to refer to himself, including Heaven-Sent Hero, Guardian Deity of the Planet, and my personal favourite, Eternal Bosom of Hot Love.
1102, deluded maniac.
This is a great title. In Swaziland, Queen Mother of King Mswati III has enjoyed the title of Inlovukazi, the great she-elephant. I think I'd like to be that. Don't you think it's a good title?
No, sometimes it's what I feel like when I'm in the bath.
Now, who chews the Queen's food?
Beef eaters.
Bacteria.
Oh. Yes, we're going to accept that, except that we are in the land of honey.
It's a bee.
It's a
The
bee.
worker bees. The worker bees?
Worker bees are the other... It's not all the other bees, because they divide up into lots of
So
categories.
there's lazy ones as well.
There are drone ones, there are scout ones, there are worker ones.
There are product development bees,
Yeah.
aren't there?
Yeah,
And they've achieved very little recently. I mean, it is just honey, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's just strange.
Unless it's Manuka honey and then it's 15 quid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are those bees on?
But when you compare them to Kit Kat, I mean, Kit Kat, there's orange Kit Kat, various... I mean, they've really worked on the product development compared to honey, it's just honey.
So worker bees, they pre-digest the Queen's food because she doesn't have the necessary glands to digest it herself. Even more unpleasant than that, they have the power to put her on a crash diet. What? Yes, I know. So she gets really big and heavy. She's too heavy to fly. And when they want to swarm, which they do once a year, they put her on a crash diet so that she loses a third of her body weight, and so she's ready to take off.
Is there a committee or something? There's some level of management that goes, you know, the Queen's getting a bit porky.
Genuinely don't know how these decisions are made. So, for example, choosing a new queen, they seem to select, rather randomly, a bee at the larva stage. And they give it a special diet, different from all of the workers. So these are queen cups. These are new queens being developed. Most larvae are fed honey and pollen by worker bees, but occasionally one is fed only royal jelly, which is a sort of protein that's secreted from the glands in the worker bees' heads, and this one is elevated to royal status and becomes queen. But I like that you asked the question, because the truth is, we don't know.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we used to think it was the royal jelly that made the queens develop differently, and we now think it's not what she's fed, but what she is not fed. So the fact that she does not get pollen and honey like the others, it actually makes her ovaries grow large, while the others' reproductive organs, the ones that get the pollen and honey, they actually shrink. It's a terrible life, actually, because when it comes time to get rid of her, she's sick or she's unproductive, she's not having any more babies, the workers kill her by balling her.
Oh, I don't know if I want to know what that is.
No.
It's not what I think it is.
No, large group swarms tightly around her and
Better than I was thinking. Yeah.
raises her body temperature until she is fatally overheated. And I know!
This is awful.
I love that we're all feeling sorry for this queen bee. But actually, we say queen bee, since Aristotle's time, it was always assumed it was a king. It took until the 1670s. There was a Dutch scientist called Jan Swammerdam, and he dissected a king bee under a microscope and rather just shocked to discover the size of the ovaries, which represent a quarter of a mature queen's body weight. He also learnt this great thing. If you remove the queen from the hive on a stick, all the other bees will follow you. And this is a beekeeping trick that people use now. And the most bizarre use was in the 18th century in show business. There was a beekeeper called Daniel Wildman. He had a honey shop in London, and he promoted it by riding horses, standing up while wearing a beard of bees.
And that made people buy from his shop rather than just think he was mad.
It's pretty startling if you have a look. This is not him, but these are other people who have the skill of getting bees to do as they please.
Did they all have honey shops as well?
I think they were just selling tickets in the end, because there was a woman called Patty Jones, so she was the wife of the inventor of the modern circus, Philip Astley, and she used to perform horse riding stunts, but she used to have a swarm of bees on her hand imitating a lady's muff. I mean a hand warmer.
So do I.
Now, who has sex for 15 years and gets licked to death by their own children?
Going to be an insect or something, is
Is
it?
it something like a termite?
It is a termite. You're
It is.
absolutely right. Yes.
Did you know?
Let's just be warned, even if you like insects, I think this is a bit gross, OK? So
And
we are...
I don't really like insects.
Right, so in that case...
I accept they're necessary.
Yeah, they are necessary, but this is, honestly, a yellow pulsating mass. So the termite queen, just like bees, is the only fertile female in the colony, and she gives birth to all the rest. But unlike other insects, mates for life. And I mean literally. So, after choosing, a king spends 15 years incessantly mating to produce the nest colony. She produces one egg every 3 seconds.
No.
I know. So over 250 million in her lifetime. And
It's like a paintball machine.
so that you can just see her head at the front, and that is her body, and that her egg-producing organ becomes so massive that she's rendered entirely... There she is. Oh. I know. She's played by Olivia Colman in the film. She's literally pulsating, producing eggs the whole time. She grows to be too large to leave the cell. She can be 100 times the size of the other termites.
Is that the king there on the end?
No, that's her.
The black bit at the end
Is
there?
her.
That's her.
And the rest is egg-producing organ.
Oh.
I said it was gross.
Is she having sex and producing an egg at the same time?
Yeah, so she's endlessly shagging. She goes through about 5 to 10 kings in her lifetime. I think they just get exhausted. I think they can't deal with
I mean,
it.
does she do it the same way every time? Like, do they have to experiment with the sex life to keep it fun and...
Yeah. No, I think she just gets rid of the king. And she can't move, so her babies tend to her, they feed her, they clean her, they drink the secretion that she sweats. Look at this. I did warn you, it's revolting. But when she has outlived her usefulness, so she's not producing enough babies anymore, the children surround her and they lick her to death. They literally suck the fluids and fats from her body.
Who'd have thought that there was such a disgusting story behind something as lovely as a termite?
But here's the weird thing, when she dies, gradually the whole mound dies away.
So they lick her to death and then everybody dies?
Well,
No.
what you need now is to start a new termite mound, so what'll happen...
What I need now?
No, I mean... when she's died, you need to start a new mound, and so what happens is once a year, virgin queens will fly out of the mound and they'll land on the ground, and they instantly shed their wings, so they never fly again, and they meet a king, and they go underground, and they start a new mound.
And how quickly can she change the king?
Well,
Does she have to wear him out?
Yeah. I mean, so in her lifetime, she'll go through between 5 and 10 kings.
As one king finishes, does she sort of go, quick,
She goes,
I need
Get me
another?
another one, get me another one.
Jump on!
Talking about royalty, there was a study in 2018, and termite workers, you have to understand termite workers are generally blind, they perform a kind of curtsy when they can scent royalty. So there's a wax coat-like substance that is over the king and queen, and when the workers smell it, they pause and start shaking. Look, see them shaking? Because it's almost like a curtsy, like being in the presence of their leader. Anyway, moving on. What's wrong with the queen in this picture?
Nothing at all. Oh, no, he's kissing her hand. Sorry, I just realised.
Did you think that was a clean-shaven gentleman?
Is she dead?
She is dead. This is Inés de Castro. So we are back in the 14th century. She was the mistress of the then future king of Portugal, Peter I. He had a wife called Constance, and she died. It was very sad. So he immediately moved Inés in, and they had 3 illegitimate children. Now, his dad was still king then, Alfonso IV. He was furious. So he had Inés killed. Well, obviously, Peter didn't like this very much. So he caught 2 of the killers, and he had their hearts torn out and pulverised before him while he ate dinner. So quite cross. I mean, on the whole, quite cross. 6 years later, he became king. He announced that he and Inés had secretly married. He dug her up and, and placed her on the throne and forced the court to swear allegiance to her and kiss her hand. So she's not only dead, darling, she's been buried for 6 years.
Well, in which case, they've done a great job.
Yeah. She looks pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I look worse than that many days.
There's a magnificent coffin, which you can still see. It's at the monastery of Alcobaça. But there's a modern Portuguese expression, agora Inés é morta, now Inés is dead. It basically means, it's too late. You can't turn back now. But there she is, finally laid to
Being
rest.
licked by her children, by the way.
Well, it's such a horrific story. Lots of people thought it was a myth. But in fact, there is plenty of evidence to suggest that it is, in fact, a fact.
Jesus.
But actually, in this country, we had a similar sort of thing. So in 1667, 230 years after Catherine of Valois, she was the queen consort of Henry V, died, her tomb was disturbed. They were doing some renovations in Westminster Abbey. And after that, if you paid a little bit extra to to your tour guide, they would take you to see the corpse. It became a sort of tourist attraction. And Samuel Pepys took his wife and daughters to see it. And this is really weird. He wrote in his diary, "I did kiss her mouth, reflecting upon it that I did kiss a queen, that this was my birthday, 36 years old, that I did first kiss a queen." I know. She was 230 years dead.
It still counts.
If it was his first queen, was it his first corpse, though? Maybe he couldn't say it was his first corpse because he's already done that, so he had to say it was his first queen.
Awkward.
Yeah.
Oh, the corpse thing. Oh, that.
That was my 30th.
Is that the dead queen?
I would suggest that a wooden
Yeah,
carving.
it looks
of
wood,
it.
yes.
Yeah, if that's her dead body, it's had work.
Yeah. There have been a couple of instances of royals who were crowned before they were born. King Louis X of France, he died on the 5th of June, 1316. He was succeeded by his son, John I, but he wasn't born until the 15th of November, so he reigned for 5 months in utero.
Did they have a coronation?
Well, he died 5 days after he was born, so he was... Yeah, but, I mean, in that dynasty, he's the one who reigned for his whole life.
He must be the only king to have reigned for 5 months longer than he actually lived.
Yeah. Ines de Castro was a bit of a stiff, you know, even for a royal. Now, what would you have to do to a mannequin to get yourself arrested?
Have sex with it for 15 years and then lick it to death.
I would say that if it's your mannequin, that would not be a legal issue, would it? If you want to hump it for years and years and then lick it to bits, then that's fine, as long as it doesn't belong to Marks and Spencer's and you're not doing it in the winter.
So if that happens to me, I can say David said it was fine.
Yeah, I promise you that you will not have a legal problem.
Have you trained in any way in the legal fraternity?
No, I have no training legally,
Right.
but I am right.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
So a different kind of queen, we're talking about drag queens. In 1941, there was a drag queen called Julian Elting. He was arrested simply for pointing at a mannequin. So this is really hard for us to believe.
What with?
Well... That's him on the left and that's him on the right as well. And it's impossible for us to imagine, but he was one of the highest paid actors in the world in his day. He was paid $3,500 a week, so that's nearly $60,000 now. In 1912, he had a Broadway theatre on 42nd Street named after him. Everybody loved his drag act. He was always doing lots and lots of costume changes. But then, after World War I, there was a spate of morality laws and men were banned from dressing as women. And shortly before his death, he was reduced to performing in a tuxedo with a mannequin next to him, dressed as he would have done when he dressed as a woman, and he was arrested in a Los Angeles nightclub for simply pointing. It was thought to be too much.
In what year was that?
1941.
41?
Yeah.
So they banned drag acts?
Yeah.
They banned drag acts when?
Moral.
First
So
World
it started after the First World
Right.
War, and then it increased and increased to the extent that in 1941 he was arrested for simply pointing at a mannequin.
Jesus.
I know, it's bonkers,
Yeah.
isn't it?
In wartime, drag acts would have been very helpful.
Yeah.
For morale.
Yeah.
I know that's different from moral grounds, but on morale grounds, more drag, please.
And in terms of morality, probably the worst story about cross-dressing was a man called William T. Sloper. He was on the Titanic, and he was invited into one of the lifeboats by an actress he had just met that evening, Dorothy Gibson. When only a third of the lifeboats were filled to capacity, the whole women and children thing hadn't kicked in. He did survive. He got to the United States, and he refused to talk to reporters because he had said he would give just a story to his local newspaper. And one journalist took umbrage at this and wrote an article anyway, and invented the notion that he had in fact escaped because he was dressed as a woman, and it wasn't true at all. But he lived under the curse of this accusation for the rest of his life. There was somebody who did escape, sort of, by cross-dressing, a steerage-class passenger called David Buckley. He made his way into a lifeboat, and then all the men were ordered off, but a woman he was sitting next to threw her shawl over him, and he stayed in the lifeboat, and he did survive. But I don't think it's, strictly speaking, cross-dressing. It just was covered with a thing.
It's where cross-dressing meets hiding.
Yes. Now, who was the first queen to get a Brazilian?
Oh, Cleopatra.
Why do you think her?
She used to bath in milk. She was up for stuff.
Ass's milk.
Yeah, not even normal milk.
No.
She married several of her brothers. She was a, you know, what we'd call now a weirdo.
No, it is not
Someone
her.
get a Brazilian husband?
We are heading indeed to Brazil, if that helps. I had to have this picture explained to me when I first saw it.
Well, we know more about you than we thought we did. I'm in the same gang as you. Hi.
Go, girl. Honestly, I thought it was caramel. I had no idea what it was. We're going to 1807. We are going to Portugal. The Crown Prince, Dom João. Napoleon is approaching, and he takes his entire court, including his queen, Carlotta, and he thinks, let's go to one of our colonies, and they head off to Brazil. So they go off in a convoy of ships from Lisbon to Brazil. 10,000 people go with him, and it's unbelievably overcrowded and unhygienic, and a lice infestation breaks out. So, in order to get rid of the lice, they all, including all the women, they have to shave their heads, they have to throw all their powdered wigs away and cover their heads in pig fat. Now, they're about to arrive in Brazil. They want to make a bit of a stir.
But to do?
But they've got bald heads and pig fat.
I think that'll do the job then.
They arrive at a place called Guanabara Bay, and Carlotta and all the other royal women emerged with their bald heads covered with improvised turbans. And apparently, so the story goes, the Brazilian women thought this was the height of European style, and it became the local fashion. The problem is that Brazil is full of a wonderful African-Brazilian population, and I would have thought that the turban thing would have come from that part of the world originally, but we don't know.
So they were bald everywhere then?
Are you worrying about...
I've just thrown me winter's coat in.
This one looks not unlike David Mitchell.
Do you not think she looks a bit like Marty Feldman?
Yes, crossed with David Mitchell.
This is building up into quite the compliment.
Whether the story is true or not about the Brazilians, there is a long history of commoners imitating royals. There was a man called Guillermo, Duke of Mantua. He was a hunchback, so we're talking 16th century. And so all of his courtiers put humps on to compliment him.
Aww.
You've got to judge that carefully.
Yeah.
It might look like you're taking the piss.
Just a... The Princess of Wales, Alexandra, she had a limp because she had a stiff knee joint, and it became fashionable to limp in the same way it was known as the Alexandra limp.
Oh,
Isn't there a thing about waistcoat buttons as well?
What's the thing about waistcoat buttons?
In Britain, you're supposed to leave your bottom button of a waistcoat undone, and I'd heard...
Because
that
of some fat bastard.
Some fat bastard, yeah. Some king who couldn't do all his buttons up, so
That's it.
everyone went around with leaving some of their buttons undone, like, yeah, it's just normal, it's just really stylish.
And you had to have food around your mouth and all down your tie.
Yeah.
The waistcoat buttons is true. Edward VII, when he was Prince of Wales. So.
Oh, her husband.
Her husband, in fact, yeah. Here's another interesting fashion for royals. Louis XIV, he had a fashion that courtiers should have one long fingernail. Why was that?
My husband's got one special toenail for scratching his eczema. It's awful, isn't it? It's genuinely true. Is that the sort of thing you're after?
I feel in this show you and I are in danger of oversharing.
And you seem to be fine with that, though. That's...
Yeah, as long as he keeps it to himself, I'm all right.
Right.
Yeah.
He hasn't really, has he, now?
No.
He's only told me quite recently, and we've been together for nearly 15 years. So there's nothing I can do about it now, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm stuck with it.
Except maybe pay more attention in the future. So the one long fingernail, what do we reckon?
Is that a cane that he's leaning on, or is that the fingernail?
No, he didn't have the fingernail, so it was the courtiers who had...
Everyone else had to have the fingernail.
Yes.
Is it to do with his anus? Let me just get that out of my head.
What are you doing in your head?
Just imagine it.
Takeaway from this show.
Yeah.
Pulsating termite and a fingernail up Louis XIV's arse. Now...
So In this reality, he said, I want any of you to be ready.
Yeah.
There's no
Yes.
telling who I'm going to ask
No.
to stick their fingernail up my anus.
it's-
I want
So-
you all to grow it. I don't want it to be a specialism. I want to say, you, now.
No, so he decreed that nobody was allowed to knock on his door. So instead...
Scratch.
Yes. They had to scratch really gently with one finger, and so it became a thing that you grew a fingernail especially to scratch on the king's door, and it really rather suggested you had the king's ear. I know, weird rules. Honestly, it would have been better off if they'd done it up his arse. I just think it... Anyway, moving on. What was your best chance of seeing the Queen's ass in the 18th century?
Asking really, really, really nicely.
Is she standing underneath some sort of a vacuum?
Those are bees, I think.
You know how if you send a big parcel, you have to get the bigger stamps?
Yes.
Has that got the ass on?
Oh, what the stamps have?
Yeah, like, because you see more of it on the stamp.
You think... So you're saying that stamps are like those things that they used to have peanuts on in pubs?
Yeah.
And the more expensive the stamp, the more of the Queen you see. I'm going to send a really big parcel. We'll see the whole of them.
Yeah, exactly that.
No.
Is it a donkey?
Yes, it is.
It's not the
Well,
Queen's bum, is it?
It's not the Queen's bum at all. This is Queen Charlotte. She was the wife of George the...
George III?
George III, absolutely right. And she had...
Very good on
He's
his
very
bonnet,
good.
yeah.
I'm tickling it out of him.
That's my
Tightly.
secret. Yeah, an anus full of facts.
The anus of fact. It was...
That's actually the working title of my memoir.
But it wasn't a donkey, it was a zebra. It was known as the Queen's ass, given to her by the governor of the Cape in South Africa in 1761. It was a wedding present. He sent a pair. He sent a male and a female. Unfortunately, the male, no stamina, died en route. But the female arrived only a year late for the wedding, but hey. And it was a very popular attraction. Lots of people had never seen one before, and she had stables at Buckingham Gate. And George Stubbs, the great painter, produced a marvellous large painting. And apparently she bred it. I mean, not... say not her personally, but apparently they painted white stripes on the backside of a male donkey to persuade her to mate with it, and it worked and gave birth. So what would that be? A donkey and a zebra?
A donkra.
Donkra.
Zebri.
Zebki.
It sounds like a condition. It's a zebroid.
Zebri.
You know how you can't sit very well. He calls me zebroids. Yeah.
Ah, they
That's
like
a
that.
very good photo. For 18th century technology. Amazing photo.
It does look like a donkey in leggings, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Donkeys in tie.
Apparently they use it, the same technique for breeding racehorses. Some stallions will only mate with mares of a particular colour.
I wear a George Clooney mask quite often when on my bum, you understand.
The very first giraffe to arrive in Britain it was a present to royals. It was sent in 1827 as a gift from Egypt to George IV. I like this. The ship that it was transported in, they had to cut a hole in the deck. Because it was, At about the same time, Egypt gifted another giraffe to France, and it was called Zarafa. And it became so popular, it created a craze in Paris for having your hair done à la giraffe.
What was the hair?
Yeah.
So not like hair, like horns?
Yes, more like horns.
That's not, I would say, the most noticeable thing about a giraffe. They looked at a giraffe and that was their takeaway thing. Oh, yeah, notice the little horns. I'm going to have my hair done like that. It's got a 4-metre neck.
Have the most astonishing tongues. I went to a feeding station once where you can go up into a tower and feed the giraffes, and honestly, it's terrifying.
Was it a tower for everybody else, or just for you?
Queen Elizabeth II has received lots and lots of exotic animals. 2 sloths from Brazil, 2 pygmy hippopotamuses from Liberia, a crocodile from Zambia, an elephant from Cameroon, 6 kangaroos from Australia, thank you, and a pig from Fiji, which decided to remain on Fiji. why Fiji sent a pig?
Maybe they don't have many giraffes there.
Yeah.
We'll expect a giraffe. Well, we haven't got one. I'm so embarrassed. We can't send her a pig. She'll have a pig.
Now, we've got a dog collar, a hound tether, a game noose, and you've got the horn. What game can we play?
What noose have we got?
A game noose.
Oh, a noose that's up for
It's a
anything.
game.
Game.
Well, let's just try and work it out. What might you do with a game noose? So that's the third one.
Is it where, you know, you don't want to shoot pheasants, but you might encourage them to commit suicide? You sort of say, maybe, I mean, you're a pheasant. What is there to live for? You know? Anyway, there it is. I mean, to be honest, if the pheasant's killed itself, it's not the same thing as eating it having shot it, is it? You could probably make an argument that it's like a vegan pheasant.
This is kind of what David is talking about. It's about pheasants, but you want to be able to carry them home.
Like little soft handcuffs or something.
Well, I think it's more you put it round its neck, darling, and carry it home on your belt.
It's like a pheasant clip.
Exactly, darling. Yes. Where the hell am I going to put my pheasant? Oh, I know. I've got my game noose.
Yeah.
So all of these things come from one game. A dog collar, a hound tether, a game noose, and a horn. From somewhere around 1470, this game.
Is it a sex game?
Depends how you play it, I suppose. Let's not limit ourselves.
Is it cards?
It is absolutely cards. So the world's oldest full set of playing cards, it's called the Hofjeer Hunting Pack. It's currently at the Metropolitan Museum in New York City.
What's the top one? It looks like a balloon whisk.
So instead of the suits that we have today, if we go through them, the dog collar on the bottom, and then the game noose, and then the horn, and then a hound tether.
Oh, OK.
There weren't any rule books until the 17th century, so we don't know what kind of games they would have played. But this would have been one of the first packs to have a queen. In Europe, they originally had no queen. They had a cavalier on horseback instead. But around the 15th century, they start to swap them out and start to have a queen. We're not really sure why. It may be that there's a slightly biblical influence. So if you look at the Queen of Hearts there, she's got the name Judith from the Book of Judith. Then the Queen of Diamonds was called Rachel, the favourite wife of Jacob. The Queen of Spades was linked to the goddess Athena. Clubs, I think they ran out of ideas, OK? So this was the name for the Queen of Clubs. Have a quick look and see why you think she might have been called this. Argine? It's an anagram.
It's Regina.
It is Regina, it just means queen. But lots of things have changed in games, because the queen in chess was originally the vizier, so the sort of advisor, the minister. The chessboard was a battlefield, and then it eventually became the royal court, so you get the vizier, the infantry, the cavalry, the elephants, and the chariots. They become the queen, the knight, the bishop, and so on. In the 15th century, it was thought inappropriate to promote a piece that you had more than one queen on the board. Why might that be?
Is there some queen who didn't like even the suggestion that there might be another queen and banned the practice?
It's thought to symbolise adultery. Yes.
And in Monopoly, when did they start having the little dog and the hat? And
That is a very good question. They were, in fact, all just charms off a charm bracelet.
Oh.
I know, sorry.
Yeah, that's a shit answer.
Sorry. I don't know, Sarah, but let's hope one day somebody finds out.
Thanks.
They'll just edit the bit out where I tell you the truth. OK.
I believe they were charms from a charm bracelet.
Did you get that from your anus of facts?
Yes, yeah, I've just popped into my own anus.
Now it's time for the short walk to the chopping block we call general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. What's the oldest object in the crown jewels?
Is it the queen? It's not a bad guess.
Wow, that's really loud.
I'm sorry, I turned the volume right up. It's an old spoon.
Yes, you are absolutely right. It is an old...
How did you know that? Another one out the anus.
Yeah, I know.
How old, David?
Well, most of the crown jewels were lost at the Civil War. So almost everything is post-Civil War, and there's the odd thing left.
Well,
The anus speaks! There's only very few things from before that, so from before then.
So it's late 12th century, so it's a 10.5-inch long anointing spoon. It's one of only 4 things that we have which predate the Restoration. The other 3 are some 17th century swords. It's from about the time of Edward the Confessor. You get a set of coronation regalia which gets passed down from ruler to ruler. But then, of course, as you say, the monarchy was abolished and the new government decides to melt everything down. But there was a guy called Mr. Kinnersley. He was the yeoman of Charles I's wardrobe, and he bought the spoon for 16 shillings, about 11 days' wages at the time, so it's not a complete fortune. And when the monarchy was restored, he returned the spoon.
Did they give him 16 shillings? Or
No, he just gave it back. He just returned it.
What a lovely gesture.
Yeah. Now, what's the best thing to eat to help you with your hay fever?
Is it an antihistamine?
Would be the best thing, yes. But what is the thing people often think?
They say, well, this is a klaxon one.
Yeah.
People say honey.
But it isn't honey,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. It's a long-standing myth that it would help with hay fever. Why might you think it would help with hay fever?
Gets
Bees
the bees
aren't
on side.
The idea is it's got pollen in it and it desensitises you to the pollen that's in the air. In fact, it's not going to help you at all.
It's really nice, though, isn't it, honey? I love it on toast or... porridge, I like it on porridge. I've never understood why you would put it on a carrot. That's weird.
Who puts it on a carrot?
People put it...
Glaze it, don't they?
Oh, I see if you
I thought
roast
you
it.
meant, like...
Yeah. It's
Just to make it, you know, easier. I don't know. I just thought you were lubing up a carrot.
lube a carrot but to dislodge a particularly hard fact.
Some sort
I've
of...
got the dates of the Wars of the Roses up there somewhere.
Hold on, I
This
lube up a
carrot will
carrot.
shift it.
I don't think honey's a lube. I think it's anything but a lube. It's going to make the progress of the carrot altogether more challenging.
Back to honey. The vast majority of seasonal allergies, they're caused by wind pollinators that release the pollen into the air, and bees generally pollinate plants that need insects to pollen them. So the pollen you get in your honey isn't pollen that's giving you your allergies.
Why is some of it runny and some of it hard?
It depends on how you treat it after it has been gathered.
It's not the bee's choice.
Not the bees don't go,
Make
"Oh,
a
no."
batch of hard
Yeah.
stuff.
As I said, the product development section, they've come up with nothing. No peppermint-flavoured honey, no strawberry honey.
You get clover honey and lavender honey. You do get some kind of... Yeah.
Do you?
What? I've never heard anybody more disinterested.
It's like none of you have heard of jam. That's the problem I've got.
Eating honey won't help your hay fever. Who wrote the Queensberry Rules?
The Marquis of Cream.
He endorsed them. He did not write them. They were written by a Welshman called John Graham Chambers, so he founded the Amateur Athletic Club. He's probably famous for the fact that he rode beside a man called Matthew Webb. Anybody know what Matthew Webb did?
He was in a sketch double act.
Sketch double act, yeah.
He was the really funny one. He was really, really funny.
Matthew Webb, first person recorded to swim the Channel in 1875.
You said the first person recorded. Does that mean that other people did it and just didn't tell anybody?
I mean, sure, people have been doing it for years.
I mean, we don't know, do we? Because they didn't tell anybody.
Yeah, just kept it quiet.
It's like the moon. Who knows how many people have been popping up to the moon?
Yeah.
It wasn't Columbus that discovered the Americas. The Vikings went there ages ago. The Vikings probably went to the moon.
Yeah.
I read the other day, after Columbus discovered America...
Well, he didn't, but went
Well,
there.
when he went there, there were 55 million Native Americans, and within 100 years, 90% of them were dead.
Yeah.
Mainly from disease. It's pretty astonishing,
horrific,
like,
yeah.
much worse than I had.
Yeah.
And not to mention nearly all the bison.
Yeah.
Carnage of that.
I'm just... It's the way I mourn the... Oh, the suffering. No, it's a fly.
Something
I
slipped
was
out the
backing
anus
away.
of facts there.
Yeah, some of my facts are attracting flies.
I think the strangest adoption of the Queensberry Rules boxing was a sport. It was called horse boxing. And it was the invention of a guy who invented it in Berlin, an African-American boxer called Bobby Dobbs. And it's essentially a boxing match, but you just sit and punch each other on a horse.
While the horses have a little chat.
Yeah.
Can you think of a quicker way of making horses despise humanity?
Apparently, in 1912, it was demonstrated at a tournament in Germany, and they thought of putting this into the German army's, you know, proper officer training. The new sport will be valuable for the soldier on horseback in time of war, as when he loses his weapons, he will have to fall back on his natural means of defence. It didn't work out as a sport. Anybody know why?
Can't hold the reins.
Horses did not want to stand still. The Marquis of Queensberry didn't make the rules. What were tarot cards invented for?
Is it telling the future?
No. It isn't at all. What they really are, they're like an extra fifth suit to the pack, is really the idea. And lots of people want to trace it back to ancient Egypt and the occult and Kabbalah traditions and so on. There's no documentary evidence whatsoever to support the idea of using it for divination until about 1760s in France. Before that, they're like trumps in a game. And then they were also used as an aid to creating a story. And even then, what you think each card means, it varies tremendously depending on what tradition you follow.
I once had my tarot cards read. I was quite an old virgin, and
Is that the conclusion of the reading?
I was well aware of that. And I got the naked card, and I got really excited, thinking, what's going to happen? And she just kept saying, it's new beginnings. It's so frustrating that they don't mean what they look like they mean. But this one, that just had a cock on it.
I've had somebody explain it to me and they say, oh, the death card doesn't necessarily mean death, that means a change. Or
the end of a stage in your life.
Think, OK, you've got a card system. There's one, it's the death card. Why do you have to complicate it? You know, that's death, right?
No, because it upsets people, that's really the
We don't have the card, then. Change it for the new job card.
Yes, a new job card and a cock card.
You're going to be moving house sometime in the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the final fanfare of the scores. In first place, with a sovereign 8, it's Sarah! In second place with -1, it's David! In third place with -7, Colin! In fourth place, with a magnificent -25, it's Alan! Which means I have only to thank Sarah, David, Colin and Alan and leave you with this queenly quotation. When Edward VII was asked if his mother, Queen Victoria, would be happy in heaven, he replied, "She will have to walk behind the angels, and she won't like that." Good night.